Hey everyone, this is Joe Workman, and today Stacks 3 has dropped, right? I mean, this is exciting. Stacks, we all love Stacks, and Stacks 3 is such a huge improvement in so many ways. And I know a lot of us rely on Stacks daily to make our amazing websites and probably to provide for our families, right? So I'm really excited. I'm going to do a quick overview of Stacks 3 via the Foundation update. So Foundation 1.5 was released, and it has a lot of amazing new features. And so what we're going to do in this video is basically show you all of the new Stacks 3 hotness through the Foundation 1.5 update to kind of show you how things are done. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump in and see how awesome it is. So what you'll notice when you open up your new RapidWeaver projects in Stacks 3 is that Stacks has a completely new user interface and is actually extremely beautiful and very flexible to, curtail itself to your workflow. So as you see over here on the left, we have our Stacks library pane that is now a static pane instead of a popover, but that's always customizable, and we'll look at that in a little bit. Next, we have our settings over here on the right. And if you notice, these Stacks settings are now a part of the RapidWeaver inspector. Okay, so inside the very far right tab, you'll have all of our Stacks settings. And then just as before, we have our main content area in the center of the Stacks edit mode. And then we have, just as before, our toolbars, as well as on the top and the bottom, our formatting toolbars on the bottom. Now there's a lot of different configurations that we can do here. If you go in the settings pane, if you go down to the bottom, you'll notice if you click on this little button here, you can have the Stacks settings open up as a popover. You can also click on this other window and have the Stacks settings actually be a full-blown popover window. Okay, or if you want it back as the pane, you can go ahead and click that bottom button there. So very, very powerful. The Stacks settings has been moved here, so we have a little bit more settings that we can use for Stacks 3. And then we have the same exact options for our Stacks library. So as you see, we can show and hide the entire Stacks pane. Okay, there's also keyboard shortcuts for this as well. And then we can also show that as a popover as well, which has kind of a little similar look to the way it was in Stacks 2. Okay. If you notice, scrolling through Stacks is now blazing fast, right? I mean, it's super, super fast. We also have a lot more sorting and viewing options now with the Stacks library. As we see, we have groups over here on the left. Now, the Stacks partials is something new that we'll look at in a little bit. But then we also have templates. We have images. We have our favorites, because you can mark Stacks as favorites. And then you also have the built-in Stacks, and then you can create your own custom groups. Now, I recommend the first group you create is definitely for the foundation Stacks. So you have a group that contains just your base foundation Stacks. It will really speed things up when you go building your websites. Now, if we look at the bottom, there is actually a configuration where you can actually you can change the icon size. Do you want to arrange Stack by tags, by author, by the title of the stack? Do you want to sort the built-in Stacks always at the top? Do you want to ignore author tags? Do you want to sort the reverse? You can also, show Stacks in Finder and show hidden Stacks as well. So there's a lot of flexibility here, and search is really blazing fast. Now the search field searches more than just the title of the stack. Developers have tagged our Stacks. So if we go ahead and search for something like slider, you'll see that not only did Stacks come up that contain that word, but also other Stacks that are tagged with that also show up. This makes the Stacks library very, very powerful and easy to use. Now I'm going to jump into the biggest feature of Stacks 3 right at the beginning, and that's something called partials. And partials are what we've always wanted for global content. What partials allow us to do is to define content within a stack that can be made global across multiple pages. Now, what you'll notice in Foundation 1.5 is that all the global templates are now hidden. Now, all of your existing Stacks will continue to work. However, with partials, we have even more power than we ever did with templates. Now, as you'll see here is I've actually already created a partial for my site style stack. And what I've done is in this partial, now you can have multiple stacks inside of a partial, and we'll see that in a little bit. But right now, I just wanted to show a simple example where I have a single site style stack inside of a partial. Now I've gone through and changed all of my settings inside site styles. Now I've given my partial a name of site styles as well, and you can name it whatever you like. And what we'll notice is inside my partials library, I have my site styles partial. I can then add this partial to any page that I want, or I can add it to other partials. And whenever I change it once on any page inside that partial, it will change globally across all my pages. Now let's look at a slightly more complex example. Here I have a partial called site header. And if we double click on that, we'll enter in the partial editor. And inside here, I have my site styles partial because partials can contain other partials. It has a partials that I set up for top bar. It then contains also a new stack in Foundation 1.5 called structure. And this structure stack defines that this is going to be my header of my page. And inside there, I have a 2-column stack. And then that 2-column stack contains a background with a image overlay. And then it has 2 content areas that I've unpinned. Okay? And that is done with these little pins. Now, if you'll notice here, when they are blue, when something is pinned to the partial, okay, it means whatever I add to this content area will be added to every single instance of that partial. But if I unpin these drop areas, this means that that particular drop area is going to be specific to each page. So if we were to look at this page, we'll notice that this is my site header. And then inside this content, I've added specific content to this page. Then in the second column, I've added an image, which is specific to this page. But if I were to go to another page, we'll notice that all of my content is the same except the areas that I've unpinned inside of my partial. And just to show you that partials can change, let's go ahead and edit this partial. And I'm going to change the background color of this, this header here to be a, let's do blue. Okay, so I've made the header background blue. Okay, let's go ahead and go back and we'll see that my header is changed blue. Now let's just go ahead and go back to the page we were on previously. And we'll notice that that new color has registered on this page. And if I were to publish this site, it'll basically that style change will happen on every page that contains this partial. This is extremely powerful. Now, I wanted to take a quick breakout because I want to make sure you understand how vital these partials are. I mean, this revolutionizes how we build sites using Foundation because now we can compartmentalize and basically build our theme using Foundation. This is huge. You can build your footer and then build your sidebar, build your page headers, and then include those partials on every page. And you can easily edit those areas, your footer, in one location. And then you see all of the changes right there in RapidWeaver. And when you publish, it publishes the same thing across your entire website, right? I mean, I cannot just tell you how exciting this makes me feel because it really gives you, the users, the power to really build exactly what you wanted. And not only build what you wanted, because we could build it before, right? But we had to build it on every page. Now we can build our themes using partials with Foundation, and then our content can be separate on every page. I mean, this is astronomically huge. I mean, I'm excited about this. I hope you're so excited about it too. I mean, because partials are huge. I've said that like 10 times, right? You're probably tired of me saying that, but they're huge. Okay, so I just want to make sure that you understood how huge partials are and how cool and how you really need to embrace them because they are going to revolutionize the way that you build websites. Okay, back to the rest of the amazing features. So now that we've reviewed partials, I want to make sure that you know that I completely rebuilt the entire foundation demo site using Stacks 3 and partials. Okay, and this new project file is available for download from our doc portal. So you can go ahead and go to our doc portal and download the latest foundation theme, and you can see how I built out all my partials. Okay, you'll see that I have a header set for my home because the home header is a little bit different than the other pages, right? And then at the very bottom, I have a site footer, which contains basically the footer for my entire site. Now, one thing I do want to point out with partials and foundation is that there is a little gotcha, okay? In this particular example, I have my site footer that I showed you earlier. And if you notice here, all of the text here is black, okay? And the links here are blue. Now, inside site styles, I had set my text to be white for my alternate colors and slightly off-white gray for my link colors. However, since I don't have site styles inside the partial, I'm not going to see those styles be applied, okay? But once I get out of the partial editor, we'll notice that site styles, CSS is now being applied to my content so that I could see it here. So just to let you know that it's possible that certain styles, some colorings and whatnot, may not look what you would think inside partial edit mode. Okay, just because site styles isn't there. But don't fret, once you get outside of partial mode, okay, and site styles is on the page, all your styles should be applied properly. But now let's go ahead, now that we've gone over partials and we've gone over the new interface, some things that you'll probably have noticed is that some of the settings have changed a little bit in Stacks. Okay, let's go into site styles because this contains a lot of settings so that we can see. So here we are in our site styles partial, but let's go ahead and look at some of these. First, you'll notice that the default stack settings have changed, right? We'll see that we have some nice buttons, okay, instead of checkboxes or select boxes. So you can apply a color to something or a background image, and you have full tiling options and image sizing, all within every single stack. Now the border settings are awesome too because we have this new plus button where we can then go ahead and go from a generic border to detailed bordered. Okay, and what you'll notice is we have all 4 configurations all in one line. This saves a ton of space in our stack settings so that we can, provide you a much more elegant interface to configure your stacks in. Same thing for margins and layouts. Now, every stack also has this new responsive hide this stack feature. So you now have the ability to specify on what sites, what browser sizes you can actually hide a particular stack in. Okay. Now, this doesn't replace the foundation visibility stack because that has a few more features than what this allows you to do. But if you just want a quick and dirty, I want to hide this particular thing on mobile, just go ahead and check this on this stack and it will be hidden on mobile. So this provides a really quick and dirty way of hiding content for a particular device. Now let's go ahead and look at some of the foundation specific features that we see in site styles. Now I'm going to go a little bit more in depth in a separate video on all of the new foundation 1.5 features, such as the awesome new swatch colors here. Okay. But right now I just wanted to pinpoint some of the new layouts that you will see in Stacks 3. So you'll see here that we have the ability to define new color schemes. So we have the ability to not only have one color, but we can have 2 colors, up to 4 colors in a single row, okay? As you see, same thing for checkboxes, and here we have the numbered boxes. So you see there's just a nicer way of just allowing us to define different layouts for our settings so that you don't have to keep scrolling forever to see all of your settings. This just, again, is a much cleaner way to do things. Now, the last major thing that I want to review is a new type of stack called a child of stack. And to illustrate this, we're going to go ahead and let's go ahead and look at the button group. Okay, the button group was completely redone using Foundation 1.5. So let's go ahead and add this to our page. And what we'll notice here is that it looks a lot different if you use foundation button groups in the past. And what you'll see is that there's this new plus button here. And when I click this plus button, a new stack will be added to the page. But it is a stack that is specific to the button group. So if you notice inside here, I now have 4 buttons, and each of these buttons have their own setting. So I now can choose the text. Do I want it to be a link? So all of these buttons have individual settings for each one. I can even choose different styles for each button if I want. So if I wanted this first button to be a secondary style and then this button to be primary, you can now create different colored buttons based on site styles. And you can add up to 6 of these buttons. And if you want, you can go ahead and delete a button if you no longer want it. But this is a new feature called Child Of, and allows you to easily reorder buttons, right? So you can, if I wanted this button to be over here, I can do that. Okay, there we go. So I can now reorder these. So it's a little bit better than the little kind of loop controls that we had access to before. And there's a lot of new stacks in Foundation that use this feature. Button groups one, drop zones and top bar is another one, icon bar, and a new stack that was released with Foundation 1.5 is called SEO Helper. And SEO Helper allows you to add meta tags to your page, okay? And these meta tags, we'll review this in a future video about SEO Helper. But just to show you an example of ways that this new Child Of feature can be used so that when you see it, you're aware of what's going to happen. Now, updating stacks in the past has kind of always been a chore. And if we preview this site, you all have known that dreaded Foundation version mismatch error. Well, I'm happy to say that in Foundation 1.5, that is gone, okay? And we now have specific, very pinpoint way to tell you that your Foundation stacks are out of date. Please update to version, and it tells you the version. Now, I have version 1.5.10 installed, and I've actually released an update. So let's go ahead and see how Stacks updates, how Stacks 3 updates Stacks now. So at the bottom of the Stacks library, you'll notice that there is a little refresh button. And if we click on that, you'll get an entire UI just for updating stacks. And if we click on check now, we'll see that it is very quickly, okay, it's going through, I have hundreds of stacks installed, and it's quickly gone through all of my stacks, and it's displayed every single one with release notes that I have available to install. So this is huge. This allows me to see all the release notes for a stack. And then if I need to go for my release notes, I also add a full URL that you can click and go to that particular release notes web page. And you can update individual stacks, or you can go ahead and update all stacks, right? This is greatly improved, right? And I can quickly, let's go ahead and update all stacks so you can see how quick this happens, right? So right now, Stacks 3 is downloading all the stacks, and it's installing those updates, and it's done, right? It's now updated every stack, and it even displays the last few stack updates at the bottom so that we could see kind of what stacks have been recently updated and see their release notes. Now, there's a few things under the hood in the Stacks 3 update that I should mention, right? All of the built-in stacks, okay, are now responsive. So all of the column stacks that come with stacks, as well as the image stacks, right? All of those are going to be built-in responsive now. So that's great. Now, obviously, if you're using Foundation, you're probably going to be using the Foundation column stacks. And just to let you know, all of the Foundation column stacks got a complete redo. So I didn't really touch base in this video, but make sure you check out the Foundation 1.5 updates video that kind of goes into all the nitty-gritty of that stuff. So a lot of exciting stuff going on there. Also, Stacks now has a better way of managing jQuery and Font Awesome. So if you noticed before, in Stacks 2, we probably needed to always have an internet connection, depending on the theme, right? Whether or not we can actually edit our websites and fully preview them without an internet connection, okay? And that was because in Stacks 2, Stacks always pulled in jQuery from Google. And if you didn't have an internet connection, that jQuery library didn't get downloaded. However, in Stacks 3 now, by default, Stacks actually loads its own copy of jQuery, which is really exciting because that means that we have full ability without an internet connection to test our websites, okay? And also, I mean, there are a lot of people, maybe you're on a company firewall, and really CDNs for jQuery, arguably, some people say they don't make sense anymore because there's so many different versions of the CDNs out there. So whatever. I'm going to be using the local version of jQuery from now on my site, just so that everything comes in through my site, from my domain, right? And I have full control over all of it. I prefer it that way. And now also, Stacks 3 manages Font Awesome, which is, well, it's awesome, right? Because before, if a stack wanted to use Font Awesome, it had to load its own version of Font Awesome. Now, I made sure that all of my stacks loaded the same exact version so that, multiple copies weren't downloaded on your web page. However, I had zero control over other developers. So if other developers were using Font Awesome in their stacks, I couldn't guarantee that Font Awesome wouldn't download twice, right? And you don't really want that because Font Awesome, well, it's not very small. So Stacks now manages Font Awesome, and basically Stacks can now register with Stacks 3, with S3, that we want to use Font Awesome. Okay, so that means we now have a centralized copy of Font Awesome to use. And now also, Stacks 3 ships with Font Awesome 4.4. So we have access to all of the awesome new things, right? We got Spock now. We have rock, paper, scissors, right? We got all that cool new icons that shipped with Font Awesome 4.4. So you have all of that now in Foundation, all of that in all of my stacks that use Font Awesome, and any other stack out there that has updated to use the Stacks 3 version will now use Font Awesome 4.4, and they'll load the same exact copy of Font Awesome everywhere. So I kind of beat that with a dead stick now. So without further ado, I hope you like Foundation and Stacks 3. They're huge. Both are, I think. Go ahead and watch the videos that I'm doing on the Foundation 1.5 update. And if you haven't gotten a copy of Stacks 3 yet, stop now and get it. Okay, yourhead.com/stacks. It's awesome. It's going to change your life. Right? It's just going to make your life so much easier. You're going to save so much time using partials. Okay, whether or not you're using Foundation or not. Okay, partials are the bomb. Okay, and the new UI is faster. It's slicker to use. There's even on small screens. I mean, I'm using it on a big 27-inch display, so I have a lot of real estate, right? But I mean, the thought that went into how all of the UI and the library collapses so that on smaller screens it takes up less real estate, right? I mean, Isaiah just did a phenomenal job with Stacks 3. And the quality and the craftsmanship of it has really stood out for me. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope you go and you buy it, and it makes your websites great. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great week, and happy weaving. Bye.